one of the biggest misconceptions out there would be that in order to be successful as a coach, one has to be a good coach. The more options you can give to your clients or prospective clients, the more clients you can expect to get. One of the many wonderful things about our profession, we get to dictate the rules. If you say to your prospective client with conviction that this is how we're gonna go about solving your problem, there is very little, if any, resistance. I'm not gonna let my mind dictate my life. I'm not gonna let my mind dictate how I feel. The nature doesn't want us to thrive necessarily. The nature wants us to survive.
On the show today, probably one of Britain's best known coaches, known for his no nonsense approach. I saw some Facebook posts, it's really direct, really a bit edgy, and I was like, yeah, well, this guy sounds fun. He's written a book called From Good to Amazing, works with a lot of sort of, let's say, successful people in London. They're originally from Poland back in the day. I like his style. So, Michael Serwa, welcome.
Thank you for having me, Mark.
Let's dive into the deep end. What makes a great coach?
Oh, you did not exaggerate using the word deep. Um, it's definitely not a single ingredient. It's a bunch of ingredients. One has to generally give a damn, right? I have never encountered a coach who got into it for the money and became successful. Um, the coaches who are doing well, we got into it for the love of it, for the love of the craft, and more specifically, for the love of what happens when we use the craft of coaching, the vehicle of coaching, in order to facilitate the transformation. So the love, the idea, the love of the craft, the idea of wanting to help people, and then years and years of practice.
Yeah, practice is key, huh? I heard you talk on another interview. It's not really about qualifications, but more about practice. Like someone asked me today, like, hey, do I need to be ICF certified? And I said, maybe for some corporate jobs out there or some, if you want to coach within a company, for
Yeah,
example, as a job. But I've never been asked by a client about my certificates. And it seems like people are overstressed that. What's your thoughts on that?
I've had to date, I've had over 2,000 initial consultations, and there's never been any mention on my website whether I have qualifications or not. And I can no exaggeration, I can count on the fingers of one hand how many times I've been asked if I have qualifications. And sure enough, the last person who did ask, this was pre-COVID, I told him the truth, which is that I don't have any, and he still became a client, right? So
Right.
people just don't care. People care about whether first and foremost they like us and trust us, and then if they like us and trust us, whether we know what we're talking about.
Right.
The average person, as you know, doesn't know how the coaching industry works, doesn't know about ICF, doesn't care about ICF. The only thing people ultimately care about is whether or not we can provide them with a solution to the problem they come to us with. And if you
Right. It's like, yeah.
convey enough trust and authority around that, then they will work with us. And if we can't, no amount of qualifications will make any difference.
Right. I was thinking if a plumber came to my house because my toilet was leaking, I wouldn't ask to see their piece of paper. I'm just like, hey, I've had this guy referred, recommended. He seems competent. He seems like you know what he's talking about. Great. Fix my problem. Here's my money. Right. That's the key thing.
Totally. Or even with a lawyer, we assume that in a Western country anyway, uh, in a developed part of the world, we assume that the lawyers went to law school, they know the law. We just don't think about. By the way, before we proceed, just to understand, which law school did you get a master's degree from, right? We just assume, and the same with us. People come to us, and if we have an initial consultation with a prospective client already, that means that there was something that they found that made us look credible enough for them to want to reach out to us in the first place, right?
Mhm.
So yes, if your website was all over the place or you didn't have a website, right? Like you you meet someone at a networking event of some sort, or in a bar, and then they learn that you are a coach, and oh, I was actually thinking about getting a coach. What's your website? Oh, I don't have one. Well, this could raise some questions, right? But if we do everything right from a branding perspective, if you will, from a positioning perspective, people assume that we know what we are talking about, just like we assume the lawyers know what they're talking about and doctors know what they're talking about without us asking for credentials.
Yeah, for sure. Makes sense. Why do you think coaching's got kind of a bad rep? So a couple of times recently, someone said, "Oh, I was meeting someone socially or introducing me, and oh, you some kind of life coach," and they almost said it like it was a bad thing. I was like, "Yeah, that's my profession. I train coaches, and I'm proud of that. I help people. I've been doing it a while." Like, why do you think this has sort of almost become a dirty word?
That's not my experience. That's not the reality I am accustomed to. I know what you're talking about because when I first started, I heard things like that maybe once or twice, right? But I suppose the circles I'm in these days, um, people are just more open-minded, I suppose,
Hmm.
right? Mind you, that I'm in London, in central London. If, the person who expressed the most skepticism around what I do was my well-educated cousin back in Poland, right? And and at the time I was like, oh yeah, he just doesn't get it, And looking back, I'm like, yeah, he just doesn't get it, It's just a different world, right? And like I said, he's an intelligent guy. He never heard about this coaching thing before. I didn't know what coaching was. I didn't understand the coaching even when I already decided to become a coach, right? I had the only
Okay.
very general idea what coaching was. I had to Google what life coaching means after I already had my calling. I found my calling to become a coach, right? So I don't blame the average person for not understanding it. And I also am acutely aware that as human beings, we tend to criticize what we don't understand.
Yeah, yeah, people are a little scared of it. This seems like it's somehow intimidated. And maybe it's also there are a bunch of sort of very quick coaching qualifications. It's not like you talk about being a lawyer, it's not sort of covered in like a lawyer or a doctor to a certain standard. So there's a mixed bag of people out there. Maybe I've been spending a lot of time more in the sort of Eastern Europe and Central Europe. It's a little like
Yeah, that's what I was thinking
culturally,
because yeah, because it's as you know, it's the awareness around coaching is by far the most developed in English speaking countries. It originated from English speaking country, America, right? It didn't originate from Poland, my home country. So after 14 years and hearing what I heard, I you know, and also with age, I suppose I'm getting more and more understanding towards different views, right? So if somebody was to give me the reaction my cousin gave me all those years ago, 13 years ago or so, I would think, what a moron, right? I would think, yeah, let me just educate them, right? And sure enough, sometimes I would go on a date. So like not the people I meet professionally, quote unquote professionally, but sometimes on a date, a girl would try to tease me almost about it, like a life
yeah,
coach.
yeah,
What
like
does it
tease you.
mean?
That's the thing. Yeah.
Would tease me, and then I would explain to her what it is, and then she would go from like m- poking fun of not so much me, but like the
The
job of a
profession.
life coach to going, oh, that's actually quite interesting, right? Because it's back to what I was saying that ignorance or that criticism comes from just not understanding
Right, right.
what it is, right? And then you educate someone over 30 seconds or 1 minute, and she goes from, or he goes from, what's that, to, oh, that's actually quite interesting, especially when I explain to people how personal coaching originated from sports coaching. So
Hmm.
people would often, you would notice, people would often think that life coaching is some sort of spin-off or form of therapy,
Well,
right?
therapists can be quite aggressive towards coaching. I've
Oh,
noticed.
for
They're
sure,
like
for
they've
sure, for
spent
sure.
5 years getting my therapy, and blah,
Yeah, they
blah,
hate
blah,
our
but you're
guts.
making more money than me. It's
They often
there's a lot
hate
of
our
resentment there.
guts. They often hate our guts. particularly given that we make more money than them, right? Without
Right,
any
right.
qualifications, right? And it's easier for us, and we don't have to listen about people being abused as a child, which I would absolutely hate. Would just break my heart every fucking day. So thank you for that. I'm not interested in hearing those stories, right? But yeah, it is what it is. Use the word proud, and I often say how proud I am to be a life coach. I can't wait for people to ask me, what do I do? In any circumstances. I'm a life coach. And I've never tried to. I see many coaches like, oh, life coach is a bit of a bad rep. Like, really? That's not my reality. It's like, so they would call themselves something else, female
Yeah, yeah.
empowerment coach. They would try to like use different words, but
Parenting.
it for me, we so frustrating. Like if I was to go to the, let's say, networking event and I ask a guy, what do you do? And he said, well, so what I do is I I I create those tax returns, which I then submit. So you're basically an accountant then. Yes. So why didn't you say when I ask you what do you do that you're an accountant? Like I would be
Right,
annoyed. Like I'm
right, right,
asking a simple question. I'm expecting a simple answer. Don't, right? Like if you're a life coach, say that you're a life coach and be proud
right.
of it. Like what's not to be proud about here, right? Like we're changing lives
Yep.
in a ethical, moral, um, what's the word I'm looking for? Transparent way, right? We don't use any magic tricks, right?
Yeah.
We
And
don't.
we're helping
we
people
don't-
get results, right? I mean, that's why it's become
Yes,
normal in business. That's
yes,
where it comes with
yes.
sports. And
Yeah,
that's not always the case in therapy or more kind of, I think people think
100%.
sometimes think it's more fluffy than it actually is. It's like, no, no, the whole point is it's goal orientated. That's almost
Yes.
by
Yeah.
definition, you know?
And Mark, I will give you like therapy versus coaching. I recently connected my cousin, the sister of that cousin who made fun of coaching, by the way, all those years ago. But anyway, long story short, I connected my little cousin with a mentee of mine here in London. And my cousin, without me asking, messaged me after 2 sessions with Laura, with my mentee, saying that she got more out of 2 sessions with Laura, a life coach, than after 2 years of therapy.
Mm. Yeah, I think if people want a
Your
sort of
point.
concrete goal towards the move towards, I think both have their place.
Yes,
But
yes, yes.
yeah, yeah, therapy. Sometimes I feel like the therapists are all getting angry and writing in, "They'll don't bother." But sometimes it feels like a bit of a racket. They're trying to protect a certain territory. And I think both have their place and both have their strengths.
100%, 100%. And I'm the first one to say life coaching is very important, coaching is very important, but therapy is even more important. But it's important for people doing therapy to know when it's time to stop.
Right,
I
right, right.
don't expect your therapist will say, "Hey, it's very easy for me to collect $100 per hour from you every week. It's time to stop because we're not going
They're
anywhere." With like
vested
we've
interest.
arrived to the like I can't take you any further than I have after 3 years of doing it every week for the last 3 years. Um, Please don't pay me $100 per hour, every week from this point onwards, right? So it's not a therapist's job. Well, the very ethical ones would do that, and I know ones who would do that. But just be smart, right? Like therapy is great, but get what you need out of it and then stop. And if you're not getting what you are trying to get out of it after, I don't know, 3 months, either change the therapist or just stop doing therapy altogether and maybe try something like coaching to see if that's going to make a difference.
Yeah. What makes a coach successful? So I've seen media, you've been on, various magazines, newspapers, TV shows,
Yeah.
and they've sometimes said introduced you as Britain's best paid coach or something like that. And I'm not sure if it's them just hyping you up, but I've seen your rates on your website. You're clearly doing well. I know a lot
Yeah.
of coaches out there who are part-time, who are skint, frankly. Um, I've helped a lot of my students with sort of marketing stuff because that seems like a weakness for a lot of coaches. What do you think makes a successful coach just on the financial front?
Right. So one of the biggest misconceptions out there would be that in order to be successful as a coach, one has to be a good coach. And if you are a good coach, that will be enough to be successful financially and make enough money. Nothing could be further from the truth because in order to be successful, we need to become as good um, in the realm or in the domain of business as we are in coaching. In fact, I would argue that understanding the business of coaching is even more important than understanding coaching itself, that coaching is the easy part. Anyone with interest in personal development and good set of people skills can coach. Very few people can become very successful financially while doing it. And the good news is that just like we can learn a new language, we can learn how to drive a car, something I've never done, the car thing. But um, I don't see those as different, right? I didn't have any business skills when I first started, but luckily for me, I understood very early on that if I want to make money from it, enough money to survive, I wasn't thinking about thriving to begin with, right? As I said before, I never got into it for the money. Money just came as a byproduct of me committed myself to becoming the best coach I could be. And because I committed myself to become the best coach I could be, I knew I needed to coach a lot. And I understood that in order to coach a lot, I needed a lot of clients. And if I wanted a lot of clients, I needed to learn about the business side of things, which I have. And the combination of my passion for coaching in itself, right? The passion for the craft of coaching, the love of seeing my client transform, and my business skills, which I've developed over the years, putting those two together with the business skills being the more important one, uh, purely from a practical standpoint. That over time allowed me to become the highest paid coach in the country. It took me 4 years to go from zero, from charging £20 per session to becoming the highest paid coach in the country. And that was 10 years ago. So,
How do you
uh,
know you're the highest paid coach in the country? Like, I mean,
because because I know my industry. I know who is doing what, how much people charge. I know how much money I make. I know how much money other coaches make. And on top of it, I've been saying that I'm the highest paid coach in the country since 2017 publicly, and nobody has ever challenged me on that. Nobody has ever said, "Oh, have you heard about that person over there charging this much or making this much?" Because as soon as I find out about that person, I will stop saying what I'm saying, because it's very important for me to be factually accurate, right? So, mind you, I'm not saying I'm the best coach in the country, although I believe I am, and I don't say that because I cannot prove it. It's not something based on
yeah,
fact.
it's
Because if
different. Like
it's
it's not like you Wimbledon or something where you can say I'm the best
exactly,
tennis player because I won
exactly,
Wimbledon, and
exactly, because you see, even though I believe I'm the best, right? I cannot prove it. And number one, number two, uh, I also recognize that that's very subjective, right? Because it's a matter of taste. Whereas money is something that's easy to count, right? So to use a music analogy, it would be impossible to tell who's the best artist in the UK, the best
yes,
pop artist in the UK, but it's very easy to check which one gets the most downloads on Spotify,
and
right?
I
So
guess success sort of breeds success as well, right? If one issue we have in one of our courses is someone said this just looks too cheap, it can't be good. And we're like, oh, we're gonna have to put our prices up then, because just for the perception, if nothing else, right? Like if you're
yeah,
perceived as successful and well paid, then that's also that drives success in and of itself, I imagine.
yeah. So for me, it definitely wasn't the case. Like I hear what you're saying. I know this business theory, if you will. I see the logic behind it. Definitely wasn't the case for me. I started very small at £20 per session, as I said, and I would only ever put my fees up when demand was greater than supply, right? So that's how I went from £20 per session to charging a little bit more right now. It's never been a case of, oh, I'm going to inflate my fees to look expensive to attract certain type of clientele. The market conditions have always forced me, if you will, to charge what I charge or what I've been charging at any given time, right? So
Right, right.
had I been charging any less than what I'm charging right now, I wouldn't have the physical capacity to work with all the people who would be able to work with me, if that makes sense, right? So
Yeah, yeah.
so I would have to turn people down, even the people that I would like to work with, right? So for as long as um my current fees will keep the number of clients that I have, which is around 10 at any given time, which is my sweet spot at the moment. At that level, I will continue charging what I'm charging, right? Which might be for the next year, which might be for the rest of my life, right? I don't know, right? So like, uh, I was very happy charging £20 per session. I was very happy charging £100 per session. I was very happy charging £1,000 per program, two, three, five, 10, whatever. And like I said, I would only ever put my fees up if too many people, or when rather, when too many people were saying yes to what I was charging at any given time, right? Um, and that's how very slowly, it certainly wasn't an overnight success. And I'm still developing, I'm still growing. It's not like I arrived, like I'm the guy and like
Mhm.
I can't get any better, right? But I'm certainly not chasing, I've never been chasing money. Money came as a byproduct of me chasing excellence in my craft.
Right, right. I think that's a cool message of your book and other things. If you get good at what you do, eventually people want to pay you. And I always give advice when people say, I'm too busy, I've got too many clients. I'm like, well, raise your fees, right?
Mm.
Like you're full up,
Yeah.
raise your fees, no problem. If you want to do charity work on the side, great, you can factor that in. If I feel
Sure.
like people often have guilt about a certain fee, they're like some sort of limiting belief around it. I
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
with a Slovenian mentee the other day, just say, "Oh, people just won't pay that." I'm like, "Okay, how many people are there in Slovenia?" All right, three. Let's say 3 million. All right, and it's
Mhm.
like, okay, so you need 10 clients out of 3 million people, and that's just if you did it in Slovenia and you could work on Zoom and actually coach the world. So it's just like, oh, okay, so there only needs to be, I think we worked out 12 or 15 clients she wanted. It was like, yeah. So anything about those limited beliefs around, what people will pay, obviously we're not like a commodity, so it's not like a pint of milk, which you're just going to pay the lowest price for.
Yeah.
Thoughts on those kind of beliefs?
Sure. So I definitely had plenty of limiting beliefs around charging. The reason I started at £20 per session is because I thought, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I was 28 at the time, never coached anyone before. I knew that this is something I really want to do. I felt very strongly that this is my calling, but how the fuck I can justify charging more than that if I don't know what I'm doing, right? So that felt right at the time. Hence, I was asking for that amount of money. And only when my confidence grew on the back of having 20 clients paying £20 per session, so I had a full roster of clients, before I felt, okay, now is the time to raise my fees. And I raised them from £20 per session to £50 per session, right? So every time, every single time before I put my fees up, where I was at that point where I had to, like I said, because I had two options, either put my fees up or turn people down. I was thinking, how on earth I can be asking for so much money? Like, mind you, I was making 34K a year in my last retail job, 34, 35K in my last retail job before coaching, right? So when I got to the point of charging £100 per session, and I was very happy charging that, and my business coach was pushing me to charge £1,000 per program, I couldn't get my head around it, right? So I definitely emphasize with any coach out there who's afraid to ask for more, because I was
Right.
that coach many times over. Um, but at the end of the day, to your point, like, if how many clients do you need relative to how many people are there? And if if you position yourself as a brand as opposed to commodity, so use the word commodity, right? So the problem with being a commodity, you compete on price. But when you build
Yes.
a brand, when you build a personal brand, which is something that I've done and I've been very conscious of for many, many years, to make my brand as unique, as strong as possible, then you no longer compete on price. Like a number becomes irrelevant, right? To an extent, obviously, if I ask people for 1 million, yes, somebody would say yes, but it might take me 3 years before someone says yes to 1 million for my coaching program, right? At this point, right? And because I want to have 10 clients, I don't want to have less than 10 clients. I've used my fee throughout my career to 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 regulate, if you will, the amount of clients I have at any given time, right?
Right.
So I know I could double my fees and still make the same money in a year, but instead of 10 clients at any given time, I would have five. I don't want to have five clients because that's not enough. That's not enough drag that I get from doing the work that I do, right? Like I want that drag in just the right quantity. And that quantity for me right now is having around 10 clients at any given time and
Yeah.
spending around 20 hours per week coaching, right? Anything more than that would be too much. Anything less than that would be too little. But
Right.
that's for
Market
me.
driven. Yeah.
That's me, and you as a coach, any coaches listening, it's for you to decide. It's not for the ICF to decide. It's not for me to decide. It's only for you to decide through experience what's the sweet spot for you, who you
Right.
want to work with, how you want to work, how many clients, how long the session should be, what's the frequency of the sessions. We get to make our own rules in this profession. That's one of the wonderful, one of the many wonderful things about our profession. We get to dictate the rules. Don't let
Yeah.
anyone tell you otherwise, um, because it's not one of those professions where when you're a doctor, right? eh, You,
I get it. I get it. I'm totally ruined now. There's no way I could get a job again. I wouldn't be able to handle after sort of
yeah,
20
I'm not
years.
hireable. I'm not hireable.
No way. I'm ruined.
There's-
What
yeah.
about sort of packages then? Do you like in terms of being well paid, do you have a preference for, or I know some coaches say charge for an outcome, some will say, hey, I only do clients for a year. Like if you got to, do you think, I mean, obviously excellence is part of it, being relaxed about what you're charging is part of it. Any sense of the best approach for coaches to look at how they might structure kind of payment?
No, no, there isn't one that, there is something that I do, but I wouldn't say that what I do is the best for me. Again, there's no rules. Just go with your gut. If you're not sure, experiment with different approaches, and eventually you will arrive at the approach that suits you best. Um, if spending half a day with a client, or one day with a client, or 2 days with a client as an intensive is your favorite, do that. If if working with people for 3 months and having 1 hour long sessions per week is something that suits you, do that. If you want to work with people face to face, work with people face to face. If you don't, do it remotely. If you want to do the hybrid like I do. um, Many of my clients are based in London, but at least half at the moment are not. So I get to see around half of my clients face to face, and the other half via Zoom because they're all over the world, right? You can do your coaching over the phone. Um, but as a general rule, the more options you can give to your clients or prospective clients, the more clients you can expect to get, because certain people have strong
Yeah, yeah.
preferences
They like
for.
to, I've heard, guys, I'm flying in. I want to do 2 day intensive. I never want to see you again afterwards. I'm like, okay, not how I work.
Yeah,
But if you're going to pay
yeah.
me, we can do that.
But Mark, what I found is that whatever I was doing at any given time, if you say to your prospective client with conviction that this is how we're going to go about solving your problem, um, there is very little, if any, resistance ever,
Right.
because
That's
again,
that's fine.
people like when I go to see my doctor, whatever he tells me, I do. I don't argue with him. I don't. It's not because I'm not argumentative. Like I'm so
Yeah.
agreeable. It's just like I trust him. That's why he's my doctor, and I don't challenge him. It's like, rarely. Like it's like, yeah, okay, he went to the med school, not me. So why the fuck I'm gonna just try to like make it my own way?
Yeah.
So if you position yourself, if you see yourself first and foremost, and then you position yourself like a doctor would, right? I see myself as a mental surgeon, right? So like what would surgeon do? How would a surgeon show up? How much conviction would surgeon have when they speak to a patient? Um, I'm gonna have the same level of conviction when I speak to my prospective clients and clients. And guess what?
Yeah.
When you speak with enough conviction, people will follow.
Yeah.
People
Yes. Going
want
back
you
to
to
what you said,
speak.
the conviction. I think it's what the Americans tend to do better than many of the European coaches I've noticed is having that conviction. I notice American guests will come on the podcast and they'll really have that conviction. And then a
Yeah.
British guest will go, well, maybe and perhaps, and maybe there's more humility there, but they lack
Yeah,
that
yeah,
compelling
yeah, yeah.
conviction.
You see that difference between Americans and British people. You see that so clearly. I love British people are my favorite, by the way. But I do get along with Americans very well as well for different reasons. But nothing shows the difference between what you're talking about than comparing a Dragon's Den and Shark Tank, which is
Right, right. Same
the
show, but different
American
vibe,
version.
right? Totally different vibe.
My goodness, I
Okay.
enjoy watching Bob, but oh my God,
Listen, I know you left Poland for the British girls, you know. That's I know that. I know you did. I'm joking. Okay, let's hit some hot topics. So things I get asked about a lot by coachees. Just give me like a sentence or two on each one. We'll go through a bunch. Someone says, I want to overcome procrastination.
okay, as a coach.
Yeah, like let's just hit a few topics of, coaching problems, things that people come with fairly often. I just want to get your take on
But
those
like,
guys.
if someone comes to ask coaches to overcome procrastination, are we
Yeah,
talking about procrastination?
coachy says, "Hey, I know what I should be doing, but I'm not doing it. I want to overcome procrastination." What's your take there?
Okay. So let's start with why. Why do you want that thing that you procrastinate on? Right. So let's get clear on the why. There is a quote. Um, the clearer, no, the stronger the why, the easier the how.
Got it.
Why is not strong enough. Inevitably, you're gonna struggle with the how. So I will first and foremost make sure that my client understands why they want what they want, right? And I want to feel it, right? When they tell me what it is, uh, like they need to sell it to me. Like I need to feel it. Like I need to understand that they are clear on the why, because I know that if they're not, there's always gonna be a struggle, right?
Got it. Got it. Nice.
Right? And then I talk about things like how procrastination is normal. We all procrastinate, myself included. I have never met a human being, I don't care how rich, successful, how much of a high achiever I've worked with. Everybody procrastinates. Is the degree to which we procrastinate, right? And I often talk about this difference, how the amateurs do what they know they need to do when they feel like doing it, whereas pros do what they know they need to do regardless of how they feel, and that's
Right.
what makes them pros, right? I've worked with a bunch of professional athletes or former professional athletes, and sure enough, it's not like they've always enjoyed going to train in a pissing rain type environment. Sometimes it was like an outdoor training,
Yeah.
right? In the middle of the winter in England or somewhere. But one guy was preparing for Olympics, and he's a rower. And yeah, he was telling me about those mornings when he was rowing, at 5 o'clock in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning, on the river, dark, with his mouth covered in cold sauce, preparing for the Olympics. And sure enough, he went to Beijing, won bronze. His testimonial is on my website. And it was definitely worth the end result was worth the sacrifice, right? But the big part of my coaching, the way I work with my clients, is accountability. I hold them accountable. It's not something that we have to do as coaches, but something that it's one of the tools in my toolbox, right? So my clients, I very rarely have to use that tool, another tool that, no bullshit coaching type of reaction to someone not doing what they said they're gonna do. And I believe that's a combination of two factors. One, my clients are exclusively high achievers these days, like proper high achievers. So by definition, they procrastinate less than the average person, but they still procrastinate just less. And two, they know what's going to happen if they don't do what they said they're going to do, right? And just them knowing that it's not going to go down particularly well with me, as in I'm going to tell them off, and they're going to feel like a child, basically. They anticipate that, and they're absolutely right, because that's what will happen. They anticipate that, and because they want to avoid it, they do what they said they're gonna do, right? At least, not always 100%, but if they do 70, 80%, I take it. I'll take it. It's fine, because I know that even if my clients do 80% of what they said they're gonna do from one session to another, there will be still transformation at the end of the process, right? They don't need to do 100% of everything they said they're gonna do 100% of the time, right? So, so procrastination, it's an interesting subject and a complex one as well. Human beings, when you think about it, we're not like ants. We are fundamentally lazy. right? We are built, we are designed to conserve, and a little bit like lions. When you
Okay.
think about lions, right? They don't move very much and very often, right? They get up to eat and fuck,
Yeah.
and
It's a good life
occasionally
for a
and
lion.
occasionally fight, and occasionally fight if they have to, right? Other than that, they are chilling.
Yep.
They are conserving energy, right? So we are a little bit more hardworking than lions as human beings, but we are designed to conserve energy. When you think about it, we are not designed to thrive. The nature doesn't want us to thrive necessarily. The nature wants us to survive, right? So
Survive and reproduce. Yeah.
so that's why, given that we are conditioned to just survive, to just do the things that we've always done, that would keep us within our comfort zone, and it's called comfort zone for a reason because it's safe, right? The people who achieve great things are the people who go against that natural conditioning, which is easier said than done, push through that and do those things that they don't feel like doing over and over again until they get to that desired outcome at the end of the day.
Yeah, yeah. And in terms of sort of things you don't feel like doing, I get it. We episode 700 plus, I vomited this morning on a morning walk. I was like, oh, I'm too sick to work. And then I was like, no, 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 just chill for a couple of hours, rest up, and then do the fucking stuff you got to do in the afternoon. I'm here, right? I don't, got myself together. And we are in a world that kind of pushes pretty hard. I know I can push myself pretty hard, overcoming that. Where's the balance there between, pushing oneself hard all the time, getting up when it's dark to go to the gym? I've done all that, right?
Mm.
And at the same time, not just brutalizing ourselves, actually sort of some kind of listening to the body and how we are.
Yeah, you just said listen to your body. I was about to say, listen to your body, right? Your body knows. You might not know, as in your mind might not know, because you might have sold yourself an idea that you should train. Let's use gym as an example. You should train 7 days a week because you sold yourself on this story for whatever reason, right? But then if your body is aching all the time, listen to trust your body. You know this better than anyone. Trust your body more than you trust your mind because you are not your mind. Your mind is just an organ. I see my mind as an organ. I don't see my mind as very different to my heart. Heart
Right,
has one function, liver has another function, my lungs have another, my mind has a function. So I'm not gonna let my mind dictate my life. I'm not gonna let my mind dictate how I feel. I'm going to use my mind to first and foremost create a narrative that suits my needs, a narrative of me being great, doing great work, being positive about my future, and feeding myself with positive thoughts as much as possible. I'm not saying that I always succeed, right? And I never have negative thoughts, and I never think uh, uh, low of myself, but I do it rarely and I do it for a short amounts of time because I've trained my mind well enough not to indulge myself in those stories about how sad I am and unfortunate I am because this happened and that happened, right? Eh, I became over time with practice quite good at snapping out of those times. And like
yeah.
yourself, the example they gave from today, uh, I wake up not feeling like doing anything on a regular basis, right? But I still get up and do what I said I'm gonna do unless I'm physically sick, to the point where probably training wouldn't be going to the gym wouldn't be a good idea, right? But even when I'm sick, like sick as in with a cold and or flu, or when I had COVID, I still coached. I still had initial consultations. I felt like shit, obviously, but I pushed through it, right? Because I'm a pro, I'm not an amateur, right?
Yeah.
And
Professional
uh,
mindset that.
yeah, and I would have to be really like in a hospital or like unconscious or arrested for something that I haven't done. That would be the only possibility in order to cancel a client meeting, right? Like it never happened. Like it never happened in 14 years that
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
canceled a client meeting or prospective client meeting because I'll just push through whatever little cold or little sore throat or little fever I had because I'm fucking crazy that way, right? And I'm
I
not
like the
saying
crazy.
that,
Listen, I'm
yeah,
going
I'm
to
not
jump.
saying that people should
Mike,
be
I want to
like that.
interrupt. We've got a short amount of time. I want to hit a couple more topics, okay? So I got quick
Sure.
fire. Um, Someone comes to you, 35 years old. I've got students like this. They say, I want to find Mr. Right and have kids. Professional London woman, let's say.
Uh-huh.
What's your top advice to her?
Okay. Let's create I'm about to start working with someone. She's 45, not 35. Tomorrow we have a first session. She's based in California. She wants to meet her life partner. And I told her already during the initial consultation that we're gonna start by, to answer your question, we're gonna start by creating, that's what I do with people when they come to me for love life coaching. Um, we're gonna start by creating as detailed profile of who that Mr. Right is for her as possible, right? Because when you think about going after goals in general, the clearer we are on what that goal is, the easier it is to get there, right? So we're gonna get to the 10 out of 10 clarity, first and foremost, tomorrow, as to who is the person she wants to meet. And then after that, we're going to ask ourselves, okay, based on the profile of this person that you would like to be with, what would be the best way to go about finding that person? Like, what are our options? And then we're going to create a plan around that. And then I'm going to hold her accountable, speaking of accountability, to taking those steps that she's gonna commit herself to, and we're gonna do that every session. We're gonna see where we at, um, relative to the plan that we put together. The plan will be evolving throughout the coaching process, and then as all my clients, she will have 24/7 access to me via WhatsApp. So she'll be asking me questions related to her particular dates or situations with guys, and I'm gonna be helping her to manage especially some tricky situations that she will inevitably find herself rather in while she's going to be going out there and dating a bunch of guys, right? Because when somebody comes to me and they say, "Oh, um, I'm single, I don't want to be single," the first question I ask them is, "Okay, how many first dates have you been on in the last 12 months?"
Yeah,
And
right.
sure
Like, are you
enough,
meeting any
then
men, right? Like, it's even meeting any men, let alone
yeah,
dating,
exactly,
right? This
exactly.
is
So
another
yeah,
thing that's
so I
happening.
mean, it's a very simple question. How many first dates have you been on? And if somebody says, "Oh, like I'm single, I've been single for 5 years, I can't meet anyone," I know what answer they're gonna give me if I ask them how many dates they've been on. It's gonna be under five.
Yeah, yeah,
So with my clients, when we work on love life, um, there's a very simple objective of at least one first date per week every week. And I tell them that given that by the time they start going on those dates, we know exactly who they are looking for. I know that statistically speaking, if they go on 12 dates with people who match or fit the criteria that we set, and as we just said, they're gonna go on one day per week every week, statistically speaking, within 3 months, they will find the life partner. As simple as that, right? To me, it's as simple as that, right? It's a
right.
numbers game.
Straightforward. Straightforward.
So okay, but you've been on 12 dates and you still have found, okay, go another 12, go on 100, right? Like do whatever it takes. And again, when you deal with high achievers, and she's definitely a high achiever, it's gonna be a very fucking easy thing to reach, because she will do exactly what she will say she will do, because that's who she is, right? That there's a history of success already in her professional life, and now we want her to be as successful in her love life as she is in her professional life.
Right, right.
But the same mindset, the same attitude, the same psychological makeup, if you will, that allowed her to become as successful as she is professionally, I believe will allow her to, with my help, will allow her to be successful in her love life as well.
Business people usually get it when they realize it's mostly marketing, right? It's like,
Mm,
okay, you'll filter in clients, no big deal. Uh,
exactly.
Next one people talk about a lot. I get asked a lot about people pleasing and people who can't say no. Clients who really, even successful people, smart people, more women than men, more Brits than non-Brits, but it's pretty common. What's your take? I mean, my sense is you're probably pretty good with boundaries. That would be my guess. How do you help people who are a bit more people pleasers?
Yeah, pretty good to be an understatement. But yeah, it definitely helps to be Eastern European. We are uh, uh, hardwired to be better at saying no and not saying yes unless we mean it, right? So yeah, when I work with my British clients, especially, which is around half of my clients, I try to bring a little bit more polishness to the mix, a bit of Eastern European,
Nice.
don't give a
I,
fuck
I
attitude.
learned that in Russia and Ukraine. It doesn't matter if someone doesn't like me. That's okay. I saw
Exactly,
that modeled in
exactly,
those countries.
exactly. So and it's hard because especially if I deal with someone, if I work with someone in the 40s or 50s, that's decades of conditioning, that's decades of operating in a certain way that we are up against. But it's definitely doable. And sure enough, particularly my British clients sometimes come to me either exclusively or at least partially to work on the assertiveness, right?
Hmm.
They would say things to me like, "Oh, I read your website, and there is that certain aura of arrogance around you, or about you. I could use a little bit more of that, right? I'm a bit too agreeable, right? I'm a bit too nice, right? And especially if it's a guy and he's dating that too niceness,
Doesn't work.
it's
It's no
it's
good.
it's really bad, right? You can be the best looking guy, the richest guy, but if you're too nice, that's always gonna keep you away from excelling in that department, right? So, and I tell them that the goal is not to become an asshole, right? It's not about becoming someone who just says no to everything and is being rude to people. That's not what I'm talking about. It's basically about not agreeing to things you don't want to agree to, right? Like let's use the dating analogy and say, okay, how you don't really like to drink, but your date is forcing you, not forcing, but like, you know, you know, putting pressure on you to have a drink, right? There's absolutely no way somebody could make me do something unless I want to do it myself. Like it's impossible. It's impossible, right? Whereas for many of my clients and like I said, all my clients are high achievers. If they're British or female or just very nice people, it's oh, like I did that thing, I didn't want to do it. Why did you do it then?
Yes.
I didn't know how to say no. It's like fucking just we need to teach you how to say no. Come on, like what the fuck is wrong with you? Like I would like talk to them like that sometimes, in a loving way. They know that, right? Like they know that I have the best interest in mind. Like what are you talking about? Like you didn't want to drink, but you drank anyway. Like how old are you? Fucking 16?
You're right. Peer pressure is a little bit late in the day for that, huh?
Yeah, it's like, come on. It's like, come on, you can do better than that. And that's sometimes all it takes for someone to go, okay, fucking hell. And this thing called permission, giving people permission in coaching, right? It's crazy how effective it is. Like for someone in a
Yep.
position of authority to say to someone, to the client, hey, listen, it's okay for you to say no.
Right.
That's all it takes sometimes,
After the
right?
coaching sessions, just people ask
Right?
the question,
Yeah.
right? It's as
Right?
simple as
It's just
that.
like, listen, it's okay for you to say no, or it's okay for you to do it. It's okay for you to make that change. It's okay. So fucking do it, and I'm gonna support you in the process. Everything's gonna be okay. That's all it takes sometimes, right? That's the power of coaching right there. Um, yeah, assertiveness is a big one. I'm a people pleaser by default, right? So saying no, it's not the easiest for me, but I've trained myself to say it, right? Like no. Like,
Oh,
oh, can I have a coffee and pick your brains? Like, coaches would reach out to me over the years. No.
right,
You
right. I
can't,
don't
you,
want to do that.
you,
That's not a good use of
you
my
can't,
time.
you can't have a, I would buy you a coffee. If I don't say it, but like I can fucking,
£3 for an hour of
I have a coffee machine at home, and pretty good one. It's like,
Michael, we do need to wrap up, so I need to say no to this conversation to continue too much longer. I've enjoyed it. It's nice to be in a coaching conversation with someone more yang than me, I would say, in the coaching world. It's quite rare, and that's really refreshing. I appreciate it. Where do people find you?
michaelserwa.com. And from there, you can find the links to my book, to my social media platforms on which I'm active on. Everything is there, michaelserwa.com.
It's Michaelserwa. Michael Serwa, Dziękuję bardzo. Thanks very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.